where it's like we don't call artists as like blues artists anymore.
That's true.
When it's like if that was something we did, he's number one going in that category.
Yeah, him and Future Loki is a blues artist, and the guy that why can't I remember?
Kid Cudi?
No, well, sort of. Kid
Cudi.
Cudi. So being a blues artist,
Rod Wave.
There you go. Rod Wave. Like I'm always thinking of Rod Wave. You exist in my spirit, but not my brain.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. This is another episode of Album Mode. We review a new album every single week. We look at the lyrics, the production, the overall aesthetic of the album, and how that album fits into the context of that artist's career. For everyone watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Make sure you are subscribed as well, and leave us a comment. Let us know how wrong we always are. My name is Adriel Smiley, aka AdrielSmiley.com, aka Adriel Smiley Official, aka The Godfather. We're here with His Royal Highness, aka The Bunny, not a munch anymore.
No.
King Grant. I like the sound of that though, not a munch anymore. King Grant.
Welcome back, people. We're here talking about Leon Bridges. Okay. His new album has just dropped, and it is called, oh my God, why am I forgetting the
Leon.
Yes, oh my God, it's Leon. This is our album I've been waiting for, I believe, since 2 years ago or a year ago that he released his previous album.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually, Leon Bridges is one of those artists where they're kind of like a rumble when it comes to the music industry, to somebody that they're releasing their music. It's not a huge bang, but I feel like the right people are listening to it, are paying attention to it. And there's always this like ever going discussion about Leon Bridges, what they're doing, but it's like a hush, like just on the lows. It's like you nudge a person, like, have you heard the Leon Bridges album? They're like, yeah. And then you really diving into his music. So I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, he's an interesting case because he's one of those artists who was largely successful at the start of his career. Like, we don't have that, 5-6 years of the come up with Leon that everyone saw him grow. Like, basically, as soon as I knew about Leon Bridges, he was a pretty big act.
Yeah.
And that's not something we usually have on this show. My first time hearing Leon Bridges was Coming Home. That was, my entry into him and seeing what he was about. That is probably where everything started in 2015. And he was doing a bunch of performances. He was on tour for that project. So Coming Home, again, was a big album basically as soon as it dropped. And I think that's most people's first time hearing him at all. Is there a favorite song from him that stands out to you? Not just from Coming Home, but from his whole catalog.
I think Magnolia. I think, what is that from? Why Don't Touch Me?
Yep.
I think, Magnolia is my favorite song by him. Sorry, it's Gold Digger Sound. Magnolias is one of those songs that is just like so sunny, so alive.
Yep.
It is really funny that there's a song called Magnolias that exists, and then there's Magnolia by Playboi Carti. It's literally
two
polar
different
opposite
things, yeah.
So I'm really into that flower, it seems. Maybe I should bring Magnolias.
I'm screaming.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite. I think that is pretty much my favorite song by him.
Yeah, I think Gold Digger Sound, there's a lot from there to choose from for me. I got two. Show Enough, Gold Digger Sound. I love Show Enough, one of my favorite songs from him. And then River. I know that's like the mainstream answer when it comes to Leon Bridges. But River, like, is probably one of the songs where it's his biggest song, but for good reason.
Right.
So those are probably the two that stand out for me. One thing I wanted to mention before we even got into the project is I typed in Leon into Spotify, and Leon Bridges wasn't the first Leon. Now, y'all in the comments, before I even say, who the first Leon is that came up, but Leon Thomas came up before Leon Bridges. So I wonder how this battle will go on going forward of who is the best Leon.
Who's the best Leon?
Right now, Leon Bridges is, of course, in the lead, but Leon Thomas has the biggest hit out of the two of them, I would say. And, he's well on his way up. So, he's working his way there. This is his fourth studio album. They said this album is 6 years in the making, even though he put out a project in 21. So I guess he had some of these songs for quite some time. His three previous albums, Gold Digger Sound, Good Thing, and Coming Home have all been nominated for Best R&B Album. So basically, as soon as he came in the game, Grammys,
Yeah, exactly.
the top of everything. How did you feel about his singles before we talk about production? Because I think with Leon Bridges, when you talk about what he does for singles, he has some of those more singly songs, like those do exist, but he is such a like aesthetic, atmospheric based artist that choosing a single for him isn't always representative of how the album's gonna sound.
Yeah, I was actually coming into this naked. I didn't even hear the singles,
Mhm.
right? So I was when it came to the singles, I actually had to look back and think of like which songs actually were the single. And then they kind of made more sense to me, right? Like Loretto, I think is like, oh, this is
Yeah.
like I liked it already in the album, but then when I thought about it as a single, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense as a single. I think that Loretto is probably one of the better songs, maybe even the best song,
Okay.
right? So that's I think when it comes to the promotion, like when it's the singles, I'm like, he's picking the right songs, man. I think Loretto's one of the best. What about you?
I only knew about That's What I Love. That's the only
Mhm.
one that I heard, which I like. I get that as a single. It feels kind of basic to me. Like anybody could have made
Mhm.
that song. And you're right. I think Loretto is the right choice, but I feel like he is in this group that he doesn't make any bad songs. Like maybe it's too slow for you,
Mhm.
or maybe it's not the right tempo of what you'd prefer. But there's not as that many Leon Bridges songs I've ever heard that I'm like, this is just garbage. Like
True.
that's just not something that comes from him. So it's like when he puts out a single, it may not go number one or be the biggest hit, but at least you can know that people aren't going to hear the song and be like, oh, he's done for. He
Yeah.
fell off. So you have that comfort with him. Um, I think when it comes to production, there's something that's like almost not as R&B-ish about some of these songs when he's like, because he's known as an R&B artist, from the South. But there's a song like Panther City, which to me is one of my favorite songs on here. Those bouncy bass lines, the lightly strummed guitars that's kind of leading the rhythm.
Mhm.
This song is groovy in a non-R&B way. Like this song gave me some like Men I Trust type of vibes, more of an indie type of sound, which I think is interesting because you would never call him anything but R&B. I think that's just what he's been called for most of his career, but most of the production on here, it doesn't give me traditional R&B.
Yeah, I honestly haven't thought about Leon Bridges as an R&B artist for a while.
Mhm.
I think that he's more like a singer-songwriter. And I think even Panther City that you were just talking about
Yeah.
sounds like a country song,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it sounds like a country song. So I'm like, when you kept saying, "Oh, he's known as an R&B artist," he's like he exists in R&B. I'm like, since when? Like, when was the last time that I really consider him an R&B artist? Because Gold Digger Sound, I didn't really consider that an R&B album either.
Gold Digger Sound is probably the most R&B, like beyond that project, Good Thing
Yeah,
was kind of R&B-ish. Gold Digger Sound is more soul
yeah,
adjacent
that's more of a soul album.
than traditional R&B. But why I mentioned that is because, what I did before this review was look through all his press releases.
Okay,
They announced the album in August. I was like, how is the label talking about this project?
right.
And you see R&B a lot in the press releases, and then online in terms of like his Wikipedia page or his Genius page, it's that as well. And I'm like, it's not as bad as Fouché we did a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
but it's giving that energy of like Black artists R&B.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking exactly. Because
Yeah.
that happens to a ton of artists all the
Yeah.
time, right? So that's where I was with that. I was like, oh, this is not really R&B. Like I think Panther City, not an R&B track. There's even a song like I think Simplify is another good example
Mhm.
where I'm like, this is like a soul song maybe, but like most of this I'm thinking of like singer songwriter, folk maybe sometimes. And even a country song like Panther City, I'm like, this is a country song. I think Simplify is really good. It's one of my favorite
Mhm.
songs. I like how much like release is happening. Like his vocals being stacked, like there's other like vocals that are underneath it that are giving so much air and breath.
Mhm.
Very lonely piano, barely there's like barely any production at all.
Very, very skeletal.
Right? But I think that release is like incredible. So I
Mm.
think that even though it's not R&B, I think it's detached from R&B. I think
Mhm.
he's Black artist. People are like pigeonholing him into being an R&B
Mhm.
artist. I think that he's entering like kind of like a Sampha zone.
It's crazy to Sampha. That's who I thought of as well. Where I'm like, I don't know that we even call Sampha R&B. Like I
No.
think we call Sampha more electric.
Yeah,
or
we were like he's an
electronic,
electronic artist. Yeah.
than R&B. But I think Leon Bridges is just a true fusion artist.
hmm
I think if this was a different time period, he would be like a blues artist. We would just call him a blues artist
Yeah, maybe.
because he's really a mix of like country elements, folk elements, indie elements,
hmm
R&B and soul elements. And I do think like there are these parts of his songs that you're like, okay, this is definitely giving that like soul blues part of you. But again, I think people got to put someone into one box. Got to
Yeah.
choose a box to check off.
Well, you know it's so funny. Blues.
Mm.
That's a black art form. You know,
And
what I mean?
and that's kind of the why I mentioned it is like he's a black artist, like you said, he's a black artist just making music, singer songwriter type. Where it's like we don't call artists as like blues artists anymore.
That's true.
When it's like if that was something we did, he's number one going in that category.
Yeah, him and Future. Future low-key is a
Yes.
blues artist, and
Yes.
the guy that we keep. Why can't I
Kid
remember?
Cudi,
No, well, sort of. Yeah, sort of
Kid
like
Cudi,
yeah, Kid
yeah.
Cudi. So being a blues artist,
Rod Wave.
Rod Wave.
There you go.
right? Rod Wave. Like I'm always thinking of Rod Wave. You exist in my spirit, but not my brain.
You can never get his name.
I can never remember his name, but yeah, I think being like a blues artist in 2024 is more of like what you're actually making your music about.
Mhm.
Like that melancholy, sadness,
Yeah.
just reminisce, which is a ton of what Leon is about, is a lot of reminiscing.
Mhm.
So yeah, he's closer to a blues, folk, country type of artist than R&B. He's out of R&B. We're not classifying. In the description, we will not be classifying him as R&B. I can tell you that right now.
I think this is kind of like a fork in the road because I mentioned this at the top for a reason. His first 3 albums nominated for Best R&B Album at the
Mhm.
Grammys. And I think if he was in these other categories that we're naming, blues, folk, country, he should have a good chance of winning.
Yeah.
But again, he's black. They're not even putting him in those categories. I'm happy you mentioned Simplify. I literally had in my notes, I want to hear what Démar thinks of Simplify. So
I loved it, man.
no, I feel like we're the synergy is just here. Like I don't even gotta ask you. I call that ethereal Leon Bridges.
Mhm.
I think there's like a more ethereal version of his production that he hasn't tapped into as much, where I think he can really, really strive. I think his
Me too.
voice with an ethereal sound, like almost Frank Ocean-y, but I think could even be better than Frank Ocean. Honestly, so I want to see more of that from him. But my last piece of production notes is a song that I think we need a feature. Not how many songs I hear that I'm like, we need a feature from him. And that's Ain't Got Nothing on You, that gnarly guitar riff that's like a part of the chorus.
Okay.
I love that part. It just kind of gives the song a little extra flavor over and over again. But who this song needs is Shaboozy.
Yeah.
Ain't Got Nothing on
that's
You
so
with
true.
Shaboozy on it. Oh my goodness. That would be totally something. So I feel like this is where we're missing because he does have that joint project with Karangbin.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest collab he's done in a large way. He's done some collabs on other people's projects, but those to me have fallen pretty flat. We didn't like what he did on Gunna's project. We thought that was kind of like not needed at all. So it's like he hasn't been used properly in terms of on other people's projects, but I think he could really do some good duets with other artists.
You know who would be good?
Mhm.
Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan as well.
Zach Bryan collab would be insane.
Yeah, so
man.
Leon, he leaves on the table there. That's the
Yeah.
next step. I get it. He's kind of shown his independence in terms of not needing anyone to make some of these records and
Mhm.
having these solid albums just on his own. And I think this one's a part of that as well. But I think there's some of these songs that you put that other voice on it, it could take the song to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I think the songs, like you said, what can't have it all, right?
Ain't Got Nothing on You.
Both of those songs to
Mhm.
me, those could have been, if they had a feature, they actually would have flipped from like to like, oh, this is really good to
Those
me.
could have been the singles.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
Yeah.
the right feature, those could have been a single.
Yes, I agree. Especially Can't Have It All because it almost has like it's like this really slow southern, almost gospel type of
Mhm.
track. I think that if it had the right feature on it, I think could have popped in a different way than I'm talking about. Like this would have charted on like a country radio station or something like that. And also because it has a gospel roots, a gospel piano in the background too.
Yeah, like that gospel bluegrass sound.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's hitting a demo that not like that is not exactly like us, but
Yes.
we recognize them.
We see they exist.
Yeah. I think it would be hitting that very well. So I think that's what the features could have done. It could have those two songs are kind of like I'm middling on, but if it had the right feature, I could see the big time flip.
Yeah. Two last things for me for production before we get into lyrics. One, I think that Can't Have It All sounded like it could have been on Cowboy Carter.
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh my God. See, Beyonce, a little Beyonce action.
Beyonce, Leon Bridges would definitely slap. And then one last feature I think that I think would be great for him is Post Malone. I feel like the more distinct baritone, bassy voices go well with him because his voice is smooth in the most natural way. It's like he may not have the range of some of these other singers, but the pocket that he's in, like almost unmatched in how he rules it. So next album, we put in the universe. Okay, we're naming a bunch of goats. Okay, these are who we want. But
the Post Malone is a good pull though because we're recognizing his shift into country.
Yep.
Right, and Leon Bridges actually again a little bit of a country. Like there's a little country tilt.
I think he's even like I would even say more than little. Like when I said he's a blues artist, like I really mean it because blues is really a mix of all of those genres, and so much of countries is blues in terms of theme. True. So it's like theme-wise, he's been here forever. Like talk about his biggest songs first coming out, Coming Home and River. Like those are two melancholy songs to be your two biggest songs as like an entry into the industry. That basically never happens. Like your first big hits like Tommy Richmond are the $1 Million Babies, the more upbeat songs. So again, how many artists come into the industry with hits right away, but hits that are like make you want to cry type of hits?
True.
Like he is in a kind of class of his own in terms of doing that. Anything else for production before we get into lyrics? Because I have a song for lyrics that you actually mentioned earlier.
Okay, I think one is a quick thing with When a Man Cries. And I guess this is partially lyrics too. When he starts singing ho ho ho, and like that's what it sounds like when a man cries. I like that it's like a cross between the production and the lyrics where the style of which he is singing is what he is creating. Like this is what it's supposed to sound like.
It's like an onomatopoeia.
Yeah, right. So I like that. That was pretty cool. And it somehow sounded good, but I also got the weepiness out of it. Like I understood like that is supposed to be the crying sound, right? So I thought that was a good mix of like, you know, recognizing like it was almost breaking the fourth wall, basically, right? So I thought that was a cool concept, production wise, and also lyric wise, right? That was a cool combo.
I like that you mentioned breaking the fourth wall because I think the intro on here is maybe one of the best intros I've heard all year on a record because he's spilling his heart out all over this. This album. And for the first song on an album, you're spilling your heart out every single song to be When a Man Cries. You're letting everyone know, like, I'm crying lyrically all over this project. So he's being straightforward with it. So I love that a lot. Oh, fake sneeze.
No, it's okay.
So I like that he did that a lot, but I do feel like the intro being something where he doesn't get that, I guess, sad on the rest of the songs. There's a different tone, but starting out with almost like the saddest of the sad of all the songs.
At the beginning.
I'm gonna let y'all know where I'm headed with this. And the thing about breaking the fourth wall, like that's something I've heard him and his team mention about this project.
Okay, cool.
So there's some intentionality there that's clearly coming
picked
through.
up on, yeah.
Laredo in the second verse.
Love that song.
He says, I knew a girl with a diamond crown, grew up in a border town, took me to an empty dive, such a pretty silhouette, showed me how to two-step, she brings me back to life. This is, you know, one of those more kind of upbeat lyrics of a good moment, a good memory with someone. We're gonna get to some where they're not as good. But I like the way he paints this picture without it being so yearning. It's more like the effect you have on me, like I'm always happy around you, you lift me up type of deal. But it's not this yearning of like, I would die without you. You know, it's like, we had a good time. You showed me what's up. You brought me some laughs, brought me back to life. But I like him not being as, beggy in these lyrics.
Yeah, me too. I like that you highlighted the exact same lyrics as me. So the
Oh,
only
love
thing I'd
that.
add on that is this this vignette style of songwriting again reminds me of Zach Bryan when it's like way back. Remember when we were talking about the woman like watching TV in the room, right? And like he was like looking out through the car window and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that is just like another thing where I want to show him like, yo, these guys are closer than I think is seen on from the outside perspective.
Mhm.
Also a white perspective, right? Like to consider him like again, he's more of like he's closer to country now. He's making closer to country music, and it's a similar style of songwriting. So I think that I love that song. I love Loretto. I love just everything about it. His singing on the hook, it's like what if I stayed in the middle just for one more night? Like I love his singing. I think that his use of melody is really, really, really good. And for him to meld the songwriting with also this really strong use of melody is what makes like Loretto I think it's my favorite song on the entire album.
I'm not mad at that. And for the favorite song on the project to be one of the singles, they're doing something right
Exactly.
here. This is my last set of lyrics because I have a lot of questions about what this means for his career. Like,
okay,
this is such an interesting project to me from that standpoint. On Never Satisfied, on the chorus, he says, I never get enough. I'm never satisfied. I want 1,000 days and 1,000,000 nights. And I don't mind waiting, but you're hurting my pride. That's the way that it goes. I'm never satisfied. I can't fill this empty space. Never felt so out of place. Bring some water to this well. It's thirsty, baby. Can't you tell? This is where the yearning comes in. This is more of him and that. But this is the blues, man. This is the blues. Like, and I think here he just illustrates it so perfectly. Like, there doesn't need to be specifics. It doesn't need to tell the whole story. More of the story is I miss this person.
Yeah.
And I can't get enough of them. I want more of them. Him saying straight, I'm never satisfied. Like, come on. If you can't relate to that, like you ain't ever been in love. And then him saying, I want 1,000 days and 1,000,000 nights. Like, that was heavy. Of just like, as much time as I can get with them, please, God, grant it to me. So I like him showing that in this song because I think that there's almost a different tone to this version of him that it feels more like the early stages of him, but if you kind of go through his career in a whole, it is like a reintroduction of this side of him that we really haven't seen before in terms of lyrics.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why he named it Leon. I think one of the things about this album is that it's so much reminiscing, so much looking back. I mean, can we even like name all the places he talks about? It's like Corpus Christi, Cannon, like where are the other places that he's like going back to? He's always talking about going back to a location. But I think that he is really like trying to project like for a lot of people. Like he's constructing locations, constructing people. I feel like very little of the lyrics are personally like an I, me type of thing. It's usually other people. So this is on Ivy. It's on verse 1. It's like, put on mother's makeup, heels on you, you were too young, trying on every perfume, true love when I look at you, cried for me when I did wrong, lied for me when when the truth hurt, head on your shoulder, I'm renewed, true love when I look at you. And then there's like, life is evergreen when you're next to me, heals like a remedy, feels in the chest of me, all I really need is you, right? All I really need is you. This is in the chorus, right? So there's a lot of like, everybody else, he's talking about everybody else in relation to him, right? Never like, oh, me, I'm doing this amazing thing or I'm doing this crazy interesting thing about this person. It's usually the other person towards him. So I like that I like to like him basically speaking outside of himself in that way. And also the imagery is pretty good. Like the idea of like putting on your mother's makeup, heels on you, you were too young, trying on every perfume. I think it like really paints a picture of a person very well, and also shows like this is like a young version of him and a younger person when he was dating. So, yeah, I think his songwriting is pretty good. On most songs, I would say. On most songs.
Yeah, on most songs. that's kind of been a part of what's brought him to this point. Is his songwriting has mostly been strong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I think about what this means for his career, I realize that there's almost two different Leon Bridges. Like, if you think about, the Gold Diggers version of Leon Bridges, way more upbeat,
Yeah.
way more happy in some of the songs. Like, this is like him in love, in a lot of those songs. And this is like almost a heartbreak album.
Yeah, Leon. Yeah, it's way more heartbreak, more loss. I wish I did this instead.
Yes, regretful.
Yeah.
And I think why that stands out to me is, if you look on Spotify and look at his top performing songs, nothing from Gold Digger Sound is on there.
I know, that's so crazy.
And they're some of my favorite songs he's ever made.
Me too.
Are on that project. And it's like, maybe there's just way more of an appetite for him to be beaten down, broken, heartbroken. Similar to someone like Kid Cudi, where it's like the fans want to hear your pain.
Yeah.
Like, if you're happy, keep it to yourself. If you're going through something, you're in pain, put it in the music. So
The Weeknd.
The Weeknd as well. So I think it's so interesting that that's kind of where he lands, because I thought Gold Digger Sound was such a progression in his sound as an artist of like, okay, he's not going to always sing these kind of sad songs, these reminiscent songs. Like, he was reminisce king. Like, he ain't never talking about the future. The past is all that matters. And so for him to kind of go back to talking about the past,
yeah,
I think for his career, it kind of, I guess, reframing how people look at him, just because I do think that he was known for that. And maybe because, I don't want to say the lack of success with Gold Digger Sound, because to me it's a success. Like, I freaking have it on vinyl.
Yeah.
Like, if I have your album on vinyl, like, the album's good to me.
Yeah.
But I do think for his career, this kind of puts him back in that space where people think of him as a bluesy, sad type of artist. So for his career, I think this is a plus, but I do think it kind of reframes it, because he did not have any of the upbeat songs on this project that he had on the last one.
Yeah, I think that it's a plus too. Not a plus too. I think it's a plus as well, where we're getting like a personal version of him. I think that it is a bit of a reversion to who he was earlier, where it's talking about a lot of like history, what he did. But it's really interesting to like for it to be as personal, because it's literally his name on the
personal,
front.
yeah.
Right. So it's cool to get that aspect of him where we're talking about Leon Bridges, Leon himself, versus, maybe it's like more sporadic, or you're talking more generally. Like, he's talking about concrete places, concrete things. Songs are named after people.
Yep.
Right. So I like that. I like that evolution. Very few artists can make the album be like, this is about my life, particularly like these people. And it's like actually successful as an album.
Yes.
Right? Like, and it's also named after you. I feel like there's like an album, when you name it after you, is like almost like cursed. Like, it's not going to be good.
And you know what the thing is too, is like, I feel like it's been a cop-out sometimes. Like, I have come to not trust the Name the Album After You album.
Me too.
Like, Vince Staples is obviously an exception to that. Like,
because that was
a phenomenal album. But I do feel like that's a cop-out of like, you trying to make it sound deep. You also rap about the same stuff, sing about the same stuff. And I think this time he didn't do that. Like, I agree with you. Like, this is not that. So this is a time when the album actually feels more personal. It's named after you. Like, things actually fit together here.
Yep.
When I think about the cover, like, this is almost like a next part of his career, because this cover is nothing like any of the other covers in his entire career. Like, this is the cover with the most color. It's an actual like picture of him that you can really see, him in I was gonna say in wildlife, but really in wildlife. Like, so to me, this is like a whole different side of him. His signature hairstyle is back, of course. He's done that a couple of times. But I like this cover a lot, just for how the name of the album is on the cover. Like, this feels so different than the rest of what he's done.
Yeah, I think that it's also because he is in the wild. He's like existing as just like a regular person, and this is what the cover gives. He's existing as a regular person. He's chilling out by the lake. Somebody was like, "Hey, Leon," right? And that was the photo, right? Because it doesn't look like he's like, it's not really a full pose,
No.
It's just like somebody called you and you're like, "What?" And then they took the picture. So I think that by making it more serendipitous, seemingly, because
Mhm.
obviously, well, actually, sometimes artists take a photo that happened to them in real life and they make that
Yeah,
their album
yeah.
cover. But because it seems more serendipitous, it also makes it more personal because I'm just living my life and you decide to, take a picture of me and put it up as the album cover. So I like the album cover a lot. Nice colors.
Mhm.
I like the it's just like very plain Leon in white. And it also like I don't know, it has like good balance. Good balance in the cover.
I think you're spot on with what you're saying because, again, going back to comparing this album cover to the past album covers,
hmm
the rest of them all had a pose. Now, of
Yeah.
course, he has a dance background, very, very posed. Like we don't say people say planted or candid.
Yeah.
A
This is
lot,
candid.
a lot of plantids. A
Yeah.
lot of plantids in the past.
This one's
This
good.
is the true candid. And
Candid.
like, obviously, people pose for the album cover. That's not. We're not saying that's a bad thing, but on his past covers, it was even more posed than some artists. Like
Yeah.
you see on Gold Digger Sound, even Good Thing. He's given us the Blue Steel.
hmm
On Coming Home as well, he's posed. So for him to go from superposed to basically completely candid is, again, like he's not switching up everything, but we're clearly seeing the little breadcrumbs
Yeah.
of growth all over this project. Is this a no skips to you?
To me, I would say it is a tentative no skip because I think that I agree with what you said at the beginning where I'm like, can't really make a bad song.
Yeah.
Right? None of his songs are like bad or like incongruent or like it didn't work in some sort of way. It's just like, did you catch the vibe?
Mm-hmm.
Yes or no?
That's it.
And that's kind of it. I think that throughout the entire track list, you could just let it run and there's never a time where you need to pick up the needle in any way. So I would say yes, it's technically a no skips, technically.
Yeah, I think I'm in that same spot where it's technically a no skips as well. I do think, of course, playlisting in the modern era has changed how we look at an album because I think this idea of no skips in the real CD era, like this is one of those.
Yeah.
Where it's like I put the CD in and I come back when it's done. I think now because we have playlists, like you're like, why would I stay with this album if I don't like the song in 10 seconds?
Yeah.
So I do think this is a no skips. For me, I don't think it would be a vinyl cop. The only reason I would personally is for the cover.
Okay.
I think this cover would like look really good in anyone's vinyl collection.
Yeah, me too.
This picture really would stand out, but I think musically, I don't know if this would be a vinyl cop for me.
Yeah, it's not a vinyl cop for me either, unfortunately, because I do like the cover as well.
Yeah, the cover is it.
But no, it's not a vinyl cop. There are some songs where I'm like, and it's gotta be very good for me to cop it, man. Very, very good to great.
Yeah.
To excellent, So it's good.
Yes.
What do you think? What is your score for Leon Bridges? Leon
Bridges Leon is a 6 to me.
Wow. Wait, what? After all we were talking about, you give it a 6. It seems like you're gonna give it a higher rating.
I do think there are highs on here that would warrant a higher rating, but I think overall as a project, it's just good.
Okay.
Like, you know what? We'll go 7. 7 feels more accurate because I think this project is just good, but I'm not gonna have this project as like, oh, it's so amazing. Like I have other Leon Bridges projects and songs that I personally I think I would listen to more. Someone did hit me up and tell me he might have R&B album of the year. I told them I don't agree with them.
Okay.
But this is a very good project. And now I'm thinking maybe even 7 is too low, but this album is just good to me.
Yeah.
I just feel like I would suggest people listen to it for sure. Like, go listen. This is just good. But if I'm comparing this to another recent album that came out that we did not review, that was an album where I was like, no, like, go listen to it. You have to.
Yeah.
This album doesn't give me that feeling. So for me, it's just a 7. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me, this is a 7.5. I think that it's very good in a lot of ways. I just think that for Ain't Got Nothing on You and Can't Have It All, those just felt a little bit flat to me. But then we were talking about, Panther City or Simplify, where there was just like this, the songwriting is strong. There's like that release element that I was talking about with the Sampha-esque type of songs. And even when a man cries, when we're talking about onomatopoeia, this is shit that, this like comic book basically style of writing almost. So I think that was cool too. So there's good tricks, that I would consider the onomatopoeia thing. That's like a trick, right? I think that the songwriting is strong. I think that the The production is pretty good. I feel maybe there's sometimes where it's like really too simple, and it gets into the zone where I'm like, it's not like you gotta either
not dynamic enough.
Yeah, not dynamic enough. You gotta pick it up production wise, or you gotta pick it up in the songwriting wise. But most of the times he picks it up songwriting, so you don't, the production is kind of like, we're happy to be here. So I think it's a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty good. Pretty good. Not the best thing I've heard this year, but it's pretty good.
I want to see what everyone thinks in the comments, because I think that this album, of course, people love it from what I hear. But are we the ones who are too low on this?
I feel it maybe.
I'm interested to see.
Do you think it's gonna get nominated for a Grammy?
Of course.
Yeah.
He has not put an album that hasn't been. So.
Yeah. Do you think because that's something that I was thinking about listening to this, because Leon Bridges is one of those artists where he's like a critical darling, like a Grammy darling though.
Yes.
Like they just love anytime he puts out music, he's always nominated. Sometimes he wins. So I was just thinking, I'm like, is this gonna be in the Grammy nom conversation? We never talk about that for literally any artist, is only because of him. I'm like, is this in the Grammy nom conversation?
I think like he is almost like you can guarantee it. He's gonna be in the R&B category.
Okay.
Every single year.
Oh, even though we were saying that he's not an R&B artist.
Yeah, but and I think that's a big part of it too, is like the real question is, will he ever get out of the R&B category?
Okay.
Because I think he has some legs to stand on in these other categories. Now, again, he's black as it gets. We know how they do with black artists. You got to go in your spot. But I think that's the real question is, this is the least R&B album he's probably ever made. So will he be nominated outside of the R&B category?
Okay.
I don't think so, but I'm interested to see. And I think last but not least, let us know what your favorite Leon Bridges song is.
Yes.
I'm interested to see where everyone is in terms of what Leon they like. Because we both named songs from Gold Digger Sound, which is upbeat Leon Bridges.
They're probably like, you're fucking crazy.
They're like, it's not River? Come on.
I know.
So I want to know, are we wrong by liking upbeat Leon Bridges? Like, he don't always got to be sad. Like, he makes good music when he's in love. So I want to see what everyone says about that. Of course, make sure you guys find us on the interwebs at Album Mode Pod on Instagram, at Album Mode Pod on TikTok, at Album Mode Pod on Twitter, Album Mode on YouTube. Like this video, leave us a comment, and of course, make sure you're subscribed. Until next time, know yourself, know your worth.
Later days.